Hello everybody, today I'm going to explain how to change brake pads on Toyota Corolla. It's the exact procedure for the models between 2002 and 2008. There are other cars that you can apply the same procedure, but today I'm going to be very specific about this model. In order to do so, the first thing you need to do is to pop up the hood. Under the hood there is a reservoir of the brake oil fluid that you need to open it. If you won't open it and you press the brake pedal, the brake piston backward without opening the reservoir cap, you could apply too much pressure that can break one of the hoses, and then it's very hard to fix it, especially if you are doing the procedure at home. The second thing I want to talk to you about in order to do the brake pads change is safety. I advise you to use stoppers such as this. The best place to do the change of the brake pads is on a level surface, but I always use stoppers. Also, jack and a jack stand. Never leave the car on the jack alone. This is an hydraulic system that can break. The jack stand is made out of steel and it is much safer. In a second we will continue the explanation. I advise you to use some lubrication on the wheel bolts, because these plates tend to be very dirty and it's can be broken if you apply too much pressure in order to open the bolts. When you apply some lubrication, some bolts lubrication in order to loosen them, it makes the procedure much easier and much safer, because if you break one of the bolts on the wheel, it will be very hard to fix alone again. Okay, so the third thing we need to do, we're going to loosen the bolts a little bit, not too much. Then we're going to lift the car on the jack and we're going to put the jack stand underneath. We'll be back in a second. Okay, we are back. Now, in order to start the procedure, as I said before, safety comes first. And I do 4 things before I even touch the brake pads. The first thing we talked about, I put stoppers before or back in the back of the wheel. The second thing I do, after I take off the wheel, I use the steel part and put it also as a safety under the car. Now you see the jack is a little bit up, but the car doesn't sit on him. It sits on the steel jack stand, but it also secures me in the case that the car, God forbidden, will fall. After we talk about safety and I take the wheel off, you can see the rotor and the caliper and the brake pads. In order to start the procedure, first of all, I advise you to clean the place. There is some cleaning spray that you can use. In a second I'm going to show you how to use it. You just spray the material on the rotor, but be advised that not to apply it on plastic, because it's a very violent material and it eats the plastic. Don't forget there is also an inside part. This is just the first cleaning. Afterward, there are 2 bolts that hold the caliper. One is on the upper side and the other is on the back. It's on the lower side. Both bolts are 12mm bolts. I'm going to open them and then we're going to continue the film. Okay, we are back. I take off the bolts. Here are the 12mm bolts that I showed you before. It's set here on the upper side and downstairs. Now the caliper is loosened. As you can see, I can take it off, jiggle it a little bit, and it comes off. Now, when you take it off, you can also take the brake pads. Wait a second. These are the brake pads. You can just peel them off. The brake pads on Toyota Corolla are very easy to take off. Okay. can take them off from the front and from the back. In a second I'm going to take both of the caliper off. Then I'm going to apply some more of the brake cleaning spray, okay, here on the part that the pad set on, and a little bit on the caliper from the inside, but I'm going to be careful because there is some dust cover that I don't want the spray will touch him, because this is made out of plastic, and you remember that I told you that this material, the spray cleaning brakes, is very violent to plastic. Afterwards, I won't be able to show because I need my hands in order to do so. The bolts sits on something that going inside and outside of the caliper. When you apply pressure on the brake pedal, the pads sticks to the rotor, and in order to do so there is some floating part here. This floating part with a rubber band, this is a dust cover protection. When I change the pads, I also take off this bolt, and I apply some grease in it, or on it. It's not usual grease, it's high temperature grease, because this place, when you apply the brake, you apply a lot of pressure, and it makes a lot of heat, and you need to use specific grease to this kind of places. It also prevents some of the noise when you apply the pressure on the brake pedal. Okay, we're going to continue in a short while. Now, don't be scared about what you see here. It's very simple. In order to press the piston here backwards, what I use is one of the best ways to do so. I use a C-clamp. That doesn't make me to apply too much pressure on the piston. Now, also use one of the old brake pads because it's level, and when I apply the pressure, I apply it on a level way without hurting the pistons, that it tend to go a little bit to the right or maybe to the left. In that way it will go straight backward. Now I do so by turning the handle a little bit at a time until the brake pad is level with the pistons. Then I know that I go the end of the level. Okay, I'm going to stop and going to return after I finish. Now, if you can see, the pad is level with the piston. Now I know that it's in the last level of the piston. Afterward, I'm going to release the C-clamp and the old pad. Wait a second and we will continue. Earlier I said to apply some grease in some places. So the places I use the grease is wherever the pads can be stuck, such as on the rails, on the inside of the caliper. You remember the bolt I told you that goes in the inside of the sandal where the caliper sits on, so it also need to be greased. I use the grease. I put the bolt inside and put it back on his rail. Okay, after I'll finish, I'll go back and show you the next procedure. Now, this is a brake pad. I advise you also to apply some grease on the upper side, on the downside, and on the back. It will let the pad move freely on the rail. Something else that I need to tell you about the safety of the procedure is also don't apply any grease on the pad itself. It will hurt and endanger yourself when you want to brake the car. Okay, I'm going to put the pads in the rails, on the sandal, and the caliper on it. We'll be back in a short while. Okay, after I put back the pads and the piston, now all I have is to tighten the bolts, the 12mm bolts. In order to do so, I use a torque wrench. The exact amount of force that I use is 34.4 Newton meter. Now if you don't use this kind of measurements, you can download any application to Android or iPhone that can convert this measurement to the one you use it to. Okay, I'm going to do it and then go back again. Bye bye. Now after we did everything correctly, we need to pump the piston. How we do so? We go back into the driver's seat and we push the brake pedal few times and until you feel it's get harder. Then you take back the wheel, you put it back on. When you put it on, you use the bolts, just tighten them slightly, and when you put back the car on the ground, you apply the right pressure. If you wish to do the exact amount of force, it's 88 Newton meter on every bolt. I advise you to do one bolt at a time. Now the only thing I didn't tell you in order to finish the procedure, the right way to do the brake pad change is to go to the back side of the car, to the farthest side of the driver. So if you are driving on the left side, you need to go to the right side, and vice versa. And then to go forward also to the far side of the driver. It's because the hoses, it's the right way to do so. It goes through the hose that goes the farthest at time. Okay, this is all. Thank you. I hope I help you. Goodbye.